This is a DIY battery box and charging center. So I had some of this white plaster board left over. I had to cut it in half with the circular saw. So what I would recommend is buying these at the size that you're gonna need them. So the way this is gonna work is I'm gonna have both batteries sitting in here. That other white piece over there is going to sit on top, and then I'll have a cutout where the batteries are going to go into. The inverter will sit there, the solar charge controller, and the fuse box. And then I'm going to make this portable, so I'm going to use this steel cable, and they're going to go into eye bolts. And then I'm going to have a carry handle so that I can take this with me off grid. I didn't really see a lot of options on the internet to buy these, so I just decided to try to make one myself. It's not going to be the prettiest thing. I plan these things out, but I don't know what all I'm going to need until I start putting them together. So I generally overbuy pieces, and then I'll figure out what I need as I go. And it's okay to have leftovers of stuff like this if you're always building things. I got these corner braces. They come with screws. I got these from Home Depot. I was looking on Amazon and decided to go to Home Depot and see. And I honestly think Home Depot's got better prices on a lot of this stuff. So these are like triangle corner braces. I'm going to use those on the bottom because I want extra support there. This is probably going to need to lift about 50 pounds. Some more corner braces. These are inside corner braces. You can get outside corner braces too, which are kind of like these. This is a pack of 20. These are 1.5 inch. You're gonna need these for the steel cable wire rope clip. The ones I got are for 3/16 inch. I got this steel cable and it has a plastic coating so it won't cut your hand. This is 3/16 inch. These are Simpson mending plates. Those are like 60 cents each at Home Depot. They got braces too at Home Depot. These are all the Simpson ties. You could find this like in the drywall or the framing section. I got some bigger ones. I think I might have had these from another project too. These are all screw holes, so you could line them up where you want them and screw in. This white board is fiber board, and it's actually pretty strong. When I was cutting it, it surprised me. I don't want this thing to last a few weeks, so some people might be able to get away with just screwing from the top and the bottom and the sides. I am going to add some more bracing though, because I want it, again, I want it to last and be sturdy, and I'm going to be moving it around a lot, and it's going to be mobile. I want to brace the inside, and then I'm going to draw little rectangles where the batteries are going to go. I'm going to cut through this. For these holes, you're going to need a wood boring bit, and it's not boring, but it looks like that. You probably have one in your set of drill equipment. These are a little long, these lag bolts, and they're not threaded all the way to the end of the 2x4. I wasn't really thinking about that. I did get the bigger 1/2 inch ones. You probably could get away with smaller ones, 3/16 or got a washer in there. The holes came out pretty good. So it's very important to have a pencil for this project, because you're going to want to put outlines. These are rough outlines of where you want to make these cuts. So these are the outlines of the battery that I roughly drew in. This doesn't wobble that much. It might support that, but it seems to be fine. The other thing is, once you put this thing together, you're not going to want to take it apart. So do what you need to do now to make sure that it's sturdy for the rest of its life. Making design modifications this later is going to be a P-top. Cuts are done. Little spray paint. Working on the bottom piece now. I have these corners that I'm going to use, 4 corners on the bottom. And I'm going to recommend that you pre-fit all of your pieces, and then also pre-drill at least these 2 holes, because these are not set yet. So if you pre-drill those 2, you'll know exactly where your screw is supposed to go, and then that way it'll be a lot easier to assemble your corner pieces. So I'm pretty much done with the base here. Now this is totally over engineered. Most people would just drill from the top and bottom and call it a day, but I wanted this thing to last. So these corner pieces are pretty good. I was noticing that sometimes they would lift the board off the end piece. So I actually had a problem with one in this corner. I ended up using 2 of these Simpson strong ties. You can get these at Home Depot. Put a couple more here. I got these end pieces all put in, and I put these 4-inch screws on either side. Couple pro tips here: little lubrication, soap, WD-40. You should be drilling pilot holes for anytime you put screws or nails or anything in the end of a 2x4, because just like an angry girlfriend, the 2x4s love to split, especially at the end. So I was getting some splitting. I did drill some pilot holes. There were some areas where it just kind of happens naturally if you torque the screws in really tight. So the base is done, and this thing is strong. I mean, you could throw this thing like a football and it won't get messed up. Next thing I'm going to do is the batteries. You can see where I drew these rectangles. The batteries are going to sit on top of these screws, and they have a strong case, but I just don't want anything to happen from abrasion, so I'm going to cover these either with some adhesive or... So the other thing to think about, once you put the top on this, you're not going to be able to easily support it from the bottom. Maybe you can get a hand in and do some things, but a lot of these are difficult screws to get in. These corner pieces are pretty short. I suppose I could have flipped them, but I wanted the strongest piece on the base. But these screws are hard to get in. I mean, you need like a big heavy-duty screwdriver and something, you know, it's not easy with a electric, if that's especially a wide one. The top is attached now. I really like these screws. These are Power Pro premium exterior screws, 4-inch. I was gonna put some bracing on these sides, but I decided to test out putting these screws in, and I could lift this whole thing up, and that's not as critical as supporting the inside corners. So I decided to just go with 8 4-inch screws. And you got to watch out here, because if you put these brackets in, these screws are long enough that they could interfere with your other screws. So just be cognizant of that and work around it. I was considering cutting or dremeling these ends off, but the batteries don't really interfere, so that's not really an issue that I need to spend more time dremeling something out. So again, this is not perfect. It's going to work for what I needed to do. So the top is on. So the next part is to get all the accessories planned out here. And these premium exterior wood screws on this melamine, I mean, you can get it pretty flush without causing any splitting or damage. Also highly recommend drilling pilot holes for these 4-inch screws, just to make sure you get them straight and to try to minimize any issue with your 2x4 splitting. Also WD-40 a little bit right in the screw hole, and even a little bit on the screw, will help to reduce the amount of force or how hard it is to get these screws in. So here I put the batteries down. Pretty snug fit on one of them. I mean, this box is not perfect. I mean, one issue I had is I have an old handsaw that was very difficult to make some of these cuts. So if you have a table saw, or if you buy this board at Home Depot or Lowe's, they'll cut it for you, and that'll come out better. These, I'm not sure if the hardware store will do for you, but these were not as difficult. I also beveled these edges a little bit with a Dremel and hit it with some white spray paint. Again, it's not perfect. I also Gorilla Glued down this foam that I found. Gorilla Glued that, and then put a duct tape strip on the side. I mean, it'll probably hold up for a while. The other good thing about this is you have access inside, so if you need to run accessories or something, you can still work on that, drill holes and run cable or whatever. So this can always be all modified down the road. Now, I was gonna maybe put a brace or a strap for these, but I don't really think it's gonna need that. Finally got this thing put together. This is the somewhat final product. I'm missing a couple things. I'm gonna have a DC outlet over here, and I'm not that excited about this charge controller that I got. So there's really two pathways here. One is a discharge pathway. This is a fuse box, Amazon product. It's got fuses you can put in and label and have an output. Right now I have this connected, which is a little voltmeter, and the battery thing I haven't quite got to the instructions to figure out, but I glued that onto one of those Simpson strong ties I showed you earlier, and then drilled a hole to get that put in. So I didn't want to cut a square for this because it's just not easy to do that, and I'm not sure I'm in love with this piece here. So we go from the battery to the fuse box. Fuse box has the volt meter, and then from the fuse box to the inverter. So you can see that powered on. And then the charging channel. So I've got my rock panels out, and it's really not that bright right now. And then that comes in here, and you can see here this button, or this indicator, the arrow, shows that I do have charge going in. So the connection's here for solar panel, the output's here for the battery. There's also a DC connection for a light bulb or whatever. The unit itself is not bad. It's got a timer, and you can set all the voltage, different types of batteries, and USB outlets. The main problem I have with it is here. I use these bullet splices with 12 gauge wire. You can get these at Home Depot. So these come in handy. Bullet splices, get these at Home Depot. So they take the end of the wire and you crimp that down, and then I use that for these inputs. Well, these are not stable. I have to come up with something better to use this charge controller, or get a different charge controller. This was cheap, it was like $13. The other problem is the screws themselves are tiny. It's got a weird compression system with the screw. You can keep tightening it, you can strip them. I just have them kind of tensioned in there, and it's okay if the wind doesn't blow or you don't move it. So this isn't the best type or style. If you had really small wires and you use bare wire, that might work. But overall, that's this box. Now the other thing here is only having one carry strap is a problem. It's okay if it's totally empty, but it will rock if it's full. So I'm gonna add another carry strap going this way. That's the last thing that I need, but otherwise this was a super cheap do-it-yourself battery box and charging and discharging system. If you have questions, let me know. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.